If they ain't loyal, I don't post with them. They was see-through, so I ghosted them. Names on bullets when I'm loading them. Told them dead it, then I ghosted them. I had to come up missing.
Welcome everyone to the TruExact Show. I'm here with Brian and XSIQ joining us, and our guest today is the one, the only Portland rapper, ILLMAC. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate you having me for sure.
No problem, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy. I know you just released an album and you got other stuff going on. You just did a Fire in the Booth with Charlie Sloth, which was awesome, by the way. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I want to do here, though,
before we even go into it, I just want to tell you one thing first. The album you just put out is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because you're on. I'm being 100% honest. Motion Blur and Gardettos and Velour Sweats are Grammy-worthy songs.
Wow.
Damn.
It's quite a thing.
I appreciate that, for real. Like, I haven't released a project in like a solo project at least. You know, I've still been busy with a bunch of collabs, but I ain't released a solo since 2016. But the thing is, I've been making music this whole time. You know, I live right next door to Chase. We're in the studio almost every day. So it was a long time coming, and I feel like it's my best body of work. So that means a lot.
Dude, it truly is. The layers to those songs it's just fucking unbelievable.
It's the first of 4 too.
I'm
finishing summer right now.
Good, man.
Oh shit.
What I want to do is what I like to do with like a lot of the battlers we grew up watching, because like honestly we did in 06, like your WRCs, like I was at community college just literally going to the computer lab to watch these things on Jump Off and stuff. And I mean, I went to search back all your Scribble Jam stuff and things like that. I know we talked 5 years ago on a show prior, but we only talked about the battle scene when you were like battling Pat Stay for the chain and stuff. So I want to get into like how you started, how you got into hip hop and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked a little bit about it, I think, on songs, but it's like tucked on random projects and stuff. But like ultimately, you know, like I remember I was like, when I was super young, like 4 years old, my grandma LaDonna, rest in peace. She actually had got one of those like tape holders. Like it was like this like ugly denim like thing that you unzipped and stored a bunch of tapes where you could take them. And she got it, and it was full of tapes. And one of them is mostly like country western and shit. And like one of them though was a mixtape. It was called Jammin'. And it was like a compilation or a mixtape, and just had like Curtis Blow and Fat Boys and Run DMC. I used to like go around being like, you talk too much. You never shut up. You talk too much. Like all that. I still remember a bunch of that by heart. But like from early on, like 4 years old, like I'd listen to her, 4 or 5, like I'd listen to her Walkman. I like asked to listen to it and like bump that tape, you know, and it had a special place. Like I didn't obviously develop like a real sense of like music. Like I listened to music until later on, but that was really formative. And then when I went, you know, where I was growing up, all my friends like that. I mean, that's just the young people music, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I just grab it, and growing up with my Uncle Danny and him putting me on pop and everything, like I was just very predisposed to fall in love with hip hop, and it just went from there. You know, my first actual CDs that I owned that weren't like listening to my uncles or anything like that was like Life and Times Volume 2 to Cal 2000, and I know these are like later on, like, but it was like when I was like, you know, 10, 11, when these are dropping, it was like the first pieces of music I could call my own. It was, what else was there? I'm the 18th Letter, DMX is Dark and Hell is Hot. Wow. And I had listened to Pac and all these things, but these are like the first pieces of music that I actually owned. So that was definitely like where I really fell in love with hip hop before I necessarily rapped, you know.
Nice. My first album I owned was the Mariah Carey Fantasy CD.
I think I owned like Marcy's Playground, I Smell Sex and Candy. Yeah, the single.
Oh God.
Prior to that.
I owned a bunch of stuff that was on like Now Too or some shit.
So that's the Matchbox 20 and shit, man.
Yeah. So was there a scene in Portland? Because out here in New Jersey, like we're not too familiar with like the West Coast scene as far as like more unknown scene. Obviously, we know the Pac and we know all them. But was there a Portland hip hop scene? Like, were you in high school doing it, and everyone was like, "What are you doing? Why are you rapping?" type thing?
Yeah. I mean, I started rapping when I was 11, and that was sort of like. All my homies rapped. My homie Deshante is really the one that really pushed me to rap. But he was like the rapper, and then I would just like, in the circles, like fools would always clown each other, and I sort of always had that, that eventually would help me in battle rap, that quick wit back. And this fool was like, yo, like, and I always wanted to be a writer. Like I was writing stories, poems, all this shit. I was like, my only class I loved was English. I loved reading and writing. So he was like pushing me like, bro, you should write a rap, blah, blah, blah. And then I got into it from there. And the Portland scene, like there was definitely rappers like Cool Nuts who was having, national success and doing songs with 40 and touring, doing regional tours with all the biggest acts. When all the biggest acts from, E40, Too Short, all these cats came through, like Cool Nuts would hop on and do the show in Ashland, Eugene, Portland, Seattle, BC. And like, he was very much established at the time and sort of like, we refer to him now as like the Portland mayor, and especially in hip hop, like he was sort of the goal to be achieved at that time. And it was all independent hustle. And there was a lot of other artists, like even Lifesavers, who are getting national attention with, dropping their project Spirit and Stone. And so there was definitely a scene. And I remember like when I really started to tap in and want to do shows and everything, like there was always stuff to get involved in, like the open mic nights and talent shows I did a ton of when I was too young to even be in bars, where they'd like escort me on the stage, you know what I mean? And then I'd have to leave immediately after. So, and there was also huge events that I'd later take part in, which was like the DJ Zigzag would throw these big events where it'd be like 2,000 people sold out, and it was like all 4 element. Like it'd be like a live graffiti expo, a breakdance battle, an MC battle, and a DJ battle. And people would actually come from Cali. Awkwards came up for one of the battles, and around the region for sure to be involved. So there was definitely a scene early on, and Portland's always had that bubbling below the surface. It's just not what Portland's most known for, because indie bands and indie rock being sort of the flagship music I think the city's sort of associated with,
Right. So how did the battling aspect take place? Because I know you won Scribble Jam, you beat Mac Lethal in like 04, and you're what, 16, 17? Like how did that take place? And did you go into that Scribble Jam even expecting to make it that far? Excuse me, or were you just like feeling like a rhythm at that point, like you couldn't be like fucked with?
Yeah, I was doing tons of battles. Like I started battle in 2001. In Portland at one of those DJ Zigzag events that I told you about, with all 4 elements and stuff. And then, from there, I started traveling. Philip Drummond actually flew me out to Cali for a couple events where I met, Franco, Bo Rat, and Pass, and Intuition, and No Can Do, and all these cats. And did a couple of those battles, and me and Bo Rat won a 2-on-2 back in San Diego in like 02 or 03 or some shit. And I was doing that and sort of gaining a lot of momentum leading up to Scribble. So then when I sent I sent the some tapes in, you know, to Kevin Beecham to try to get on Scribble Jam. And at the time, I had dropped out of high school. And this is like my mini little Cinderella story. Like I dropped out of high school. Like I was going through some weird shit with like a long-term relationship and all this shit. And I just wasn't, I felt like school was pointless at this point. Like I was very like, I get all this shit. I ace all the tests. Like I just did not do any homework for the last like year or two of high school. I was failing. I was like, man, I'm done with this. I'm just going to battle rap. I'm going to travel to Cali and I'm going to go to Scribble Jam. So then I got a job like working in an aluminum extrude plant, like just cutting metal and extruding aluminum and stacking shit and all working on the saw or whatever. And basically like Philip Drummond sent a bunch of tapes from me battling in Cali, and Kevin Beecham hit me like, yo, you qualified for the prelims at Scribble Jam 04. And so I was like, at this time, like years leading up to this, bro, like I'd get together with all my homies and like watch, like we'd go down to 360 vinyl and get the like latest VHS or DVD of Scribble Jam and just watch that shit like it was a viewing party, you know, like that was like the Super Bowl. So when I got that email or whatever, I was through the roof. I had been approved to get the time off at my job. I'd only been working there a few months. And then I got tickets or whatever to fly out there. And then my home, like a last minute, my job was like, yo, my supervisor was like, yo, you can't go. Too many people with seniority are you know, requesting the time off next week, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going. Like, he's like, you won't have a job when you get back? And I was like, yo, I'll pick up my check when I get back. Like I was working like 10 hours, 6 days a week. I was doing 60 hours a week, like 10-hour shifts, graveyard. Like I was happy to leave that shit. So I ended up flying there, and it was a crazy, you know, I started in the prelims. The prelims were the same day as the event. And, you know, obviously we know I ended up winning, but I didn't expect that at all. Like, I feel like I say this at some point in between rounds on there, but like my whole goal was just to make the DVD, because that's how big that shit was to me. Like, I'm like, yo, if I can just be immortalized like on the game tapes as even just being part, like I just want to get out of the prelims and make the main stage and hopefully make the DVD. So an interesting note on that topic is like, I was watching the way they were bracketing. Like, if you would pay attention, it was like, you know, if you'd see these people battle other opponents back to back and they both were obvious winners, you could be like, I think they're going to be battling each other next. They're doing it in a bracket. Even though you couldn't see it, I was able to read that. Me and Swan, at the end of the first round, me and Swan were the last two battles, and we both had obviously won. So like me and my boy, like he was in the crowd and I was like on the side of the stage. We looked at each other. He yelled at me like, "You're going to battle Swan next." I was like, I know. And then instantly I was like, oh, this will make the DVD. Swan was a big name. He was, you know, he had damn near won the last year, and he was like a favorite going in. So I was like, yo, I'm going to make the DVD. Like, that's all I cared about. You know? Shit is wild, man.
And then that was the Macy Gray line, right?
What?
That was the Macy Gray line you hit him with or some shit?
Yeah. That was pre-med as fuck. But yeah, like, what's funny is like my boy who was there flew like a year before or something, flew with me to a battle in Santa Barbara, where I ended up losing to Bo Rat in the semifinals, I believe, at UC Santa Barbara or whatever. But anyways, he was with me, and we were I remember we were flying back, and we're at the small ass Santa Barbara airport waiting for our flight, and we started talking about battle rap and shit. And we got into a debate about Swan. I was like, he's cool, but he ain't rapping. Like, it's just these formulaic jokes, da-da-da. And he was like, bruh, I think you're super dope. You're one of my favorite. Swan would smoke you. And I was like, what? No way. And I remember that's all I could think about, right? I went to use the bathroom and literally, like right after that conversation, like a year before, I was like, I would say something about like, switch up your cadence, like call him like Macy Gray or that. And I remember like thinking of that, like not fully forming it out, but like thinking of like, well, because he said he'd beat me, like, what would I say to him? And then fast forward like a year plus later, it's my boy with the same homie with me who I travel to battles with, like, you're battling Swan. And then that like montage like flashed through my mind. All right, you know, I'll be battling him next round. Cool. And just started like formulating like the Macy Gray line and shit like that.
How intimidating was Mac Lethal in the championship round back then?
Bruh, like when I tell you, and I think you can tell, like at that point, I didn't care. I literally didn't care if I lose. Like my whole thing too, at that point, you really see like I'm not. For one, I was just like, you know, lyrically exhausted. Like all the prelims were the same day. You know, that was like 5 battles, and it was just a long day in general. And I drank like 1 million Red Bulls, as you can tell with my performance. I'm doing like spin kicks and like running around. I'm too young to drink alcohol, so I was just like grabbing Red Bulls and chugging them. At that point, honestly, like I expected to lose and didn't care. I was just like, every round was a bonus to me. And I was like, I can't believe I'm still here. I can't believe I'm still here. And in the Mac battle, I think even more so, like I was just like, I really don't care if I would, like there was a certain freedom of just not really being attached to winning because I had already exceeded my goal and everything was just going from there, you know?
Nice. Go on, Brad. Did you have a question?
Yeah. Now when you started out, like even when you were a little kid, did you aspire to be a battle rapper, like to be on that level, or were you more like, you know, I'd love to record, I'd love to make albums and like express myself and have people like feel my art like that?
Yeah, like once I got into music, like when I started rapping first, like making songs and shit. Like so it's funny because it's like homies that really pushed me to do both. So my homie Deshante really was like, bro, you need to rap. Like you could do this. You're always with us. You got the quick wit. Like you need to rap. And so I was like, let me just try it. And I fell in love with it, obviously. And then that was like when I was 11, and I didn't do my first battle until I was 15. And I had recorded songs like when I was 12, 13 and shit. Like we were like, you know, this is when it was a whole different world to make music. Like we had to look up in the phone book, you know, studios and hit them up and then go record in some dude's basement who has like a rock band and is normally performed but he's like the only guy with Pro Tools in a 30-mile radius that we could find. And I was making music actively at that point and had like a little kid group, you know, like it's called Lyrical Militia.
Oh, wow.
My first group I was in was with the homie Deshante and the homie Vandaluk, and we were Young Thugs. And then when it was
with a Z or an S?
Probably a Z.
Probably a Z. Yeah.
Probably. I was a gangster rapper until like 15, by the way. From 11 all my lyrics, I was killing you. Yep. I was gangbanging. Like
I think anyone that starts rapping.
Yeah, you just mimic what
starts rapping. You mimic everything you hear. You listen to Biggie and Pac, and they're like, "Who shot you?" And you're like, "Yeah, I got a Glock 9. I'll put it in your spine." And you're like, "Yo, I'm 12. I don't have shit."
Yeah, exactly. You're just mimicking. Like my very first rap was like 4 bars, and 2 of them were bitten from Rakim. But my very first rap I ever wrote was like, I look into my pocket, but there's nothing but lint. I try to figure how I could get some dead presidents. So I walk into the bank with a 9 in my hand. Next thing I know, the judge is saying, approach the stand. Oh, it was like the first rap I ever wrote. And I was like, yo, like, I got it. Like
That's all right. That's right. That's right, bro. My first one was to rap. No one would see you pay a fee, but I shine like someone highlighted me. And from that point on, I knew that I had no chance to make it.
That's a bar, man.
That's horrible. That's absolutely fucking horrible. It's embarrassing to say. Like, you still have your old shit, because me and Brian used to rap a bit. XSIQ still raps, but like, we have on the internet our old stuff, but we won't tell our friends where it is. Like, because it's so embarrassing. Have yours anywhere, and you just won't let anyone hear it.
So, you know, the thing is I never released officially a project till Rain Check, and that was when I was like I can't remember, like 19 or something, 20 maybe. So I made tons of music, and I would burn them on CDs and like sell them for $5 at shows and give them away. And that was like my racket for years, was just like burning CDs and selling them. And I played around with doing the stamping and adding like printed art onto the burned CDs and shit. But like, that was what I was doing forever. So, you know, thankfully, most of the music from, you know, 11 to, you know, 18 or 19 wasn't online. It was just like physical only. There are some, I think, that random homies have uploaded that are somewhere floating around there. But I mean, even Rain Check, bro, like a lot of fans still love that and hit me. But when I like listen back, like I'm just like, like I hate my voice. I hate the extra I put on shit. Like I wasn't fully comfortable, you know, with my voice. And I mean, that's just the struggle of an artist. Like where I'm at now, you know, I changed like my name. I shortened it to just ILLMAC to kind of like break away from some of the previous music, but also I just feel like there's an evolution that I want to be represented by. And where I'm at now, like I ultimately want to take all my old music down, and not to just because I'm ashamed of it or something, but what I want to do is create this community model with like my fan base. So I take all the old music down and make it something special that like, if you support me over here at Patreon, you can listen to everything, you know. But then as far as like what's available just to anybody out there, if somebody, you know, is like, yo, I seen this video, Fire in the Booth, first I've ever heard of ILLMAC, and then goes and searches, and the first thing they hear is like some song that I put out in 03 on Rain Check mixtape. Like that's not a the artist and instantly be like, oh, that's not my thing, you know.
And especially now with being so quick of a society, like honestly, if somebody at my age, at our age, if someone says you got to listen to this artist, you better show me one good song, because if I don't like the first song, I'm never going back to that artist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to, and I haven't done it fully. I kind of did some of that with shortening my name, but I do want to sort of scrub the internet of the older stuff, but still make it available to the core, to community.
But I've
relationship, you know.
I feel like this album that you just put out, Spring, is such a perfect. I hate to, for lack of a better term, like a reinvention in a way, like how you're saying, like shortening your name to ILLMAC instead of Immaculate, and like kind of getting away from that battling persona and getting into more of like the artist and the complexity behind what you're trying to say. And like that, I keep going back to it. I'm going to keep doing it, but that album just embodies it, man. Like that's because I've listened to you for a long time, and like, I've always respected you. I've always been like, wow, you know, he's dope, like the shit he makes, but this was just different. I was not expecting it at all.
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
And you got to understand, out here in New Jersey, especially me and Brian, we do push you a lot. Like if anyone comes over and says, hey, you watch battle rap or whatever, like your name is the first that comes out of our mouths. You got to listen to ILLMAC. You got to listen to ILLMAC. So you do have fans out here, man. You really do.
Oh, man. Like, I really appreciate that too, on the level of like, you know, I love battle rap, and it's, you know, it comes from and challenges this other side of me that's competitive and feeds my soul in a different way. But music is my first love, and you know, to this day, I definitely, especially like recently in the last few years, like I definitely think I'm better at music than I am at battle rap. And not to say I don't think I'm dope at battle rap, but I think that my skill set and just what speaks to me is far more is in a different category. If we're looking at like, you know, battle rap versus music, I say music is a better representation of my actual skill level. And I think, you know, especially if you're doing like the comparative thing, you know, you could potentially list a bunch of names, you know, of people who battle better than me or who might hit your certain tape. But I think that list is a lot shorter when it looking at that
Absolutely.
same talent pool when it comes to music.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's a competition, but at this point, battle rap is a tool to me. I love doing it, but it's a tool just to stay in that world. And it's something I'm always going to be in love with. But the whole point of me starting battle rap, you know, at 15 was like, oh, I get my name bubbling over here and push people to the music. It was always about the music to me. So
I would say
It served its purpose, essentially.
Yeah. And I would say to your point, like, there's not to knock anybody, because like battle rap, what you guys do is amazing with how you like memorize everything. But there's not a big list whose music I could technically listen to album through. It's a very short list. I'm not gonna name anybody, but like, it's a short list, man.
Yeah,
and when we had Real Deal on, he mentioned something. He said it's interesting because a lot of battlers don't make music. Like, they literally like don't even have albums out.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
And you benefited by making music first, so you could always go back to it. Like,
right.
So these dudes, like these newer guys, just don't even, like, if they didn't grow up making music, but they're like, hell, I could spit a good 3-round fucking shit that's not on a beat. They can't necessarily go and understand how to ride a beat and add dubs and stuff like that. So that's really interesting, man.
I mean, I feel more comfortable battling, like, you know, even when I watch some battles, like whether it be newer ones or older ones, it's like, damn, like, you know, on beat, I would have spit that completely different. Yeah. Like, even finding the battle tempo and pacing and everything, like, you know, not to knock myself or whatever, but I'm like, if this was on beat, I would have wrote this better. But because of the unique structure of battle rap, I'm like, oh, I could have tightened that up, or I wish I would have delivered this, you know, faster, or not yelled that line. It was meant to be rapped better. And so I just feel more comfortable on beat and in the music world, even if it is spitting some punchline shit like fire in the booth or raising the bars. Like, you're still getting from those things what you get in battle rap, which is the like cleverness and the punchlines and those things, you know. Right. And I just think I'm better suited for that structure, but it isn't mutually exclusive. I'm gonna still battle, you know. This year, I did, funny enough, like working on cartoons and all these other shits, like, and trying to put these projects out, I was like, I ain't gonna battle this year. You know, people will want, the value will go up, and I'm like, oh, cool. With the year has been like, no one's battling, so my stock isn't going up because no one's battling. So. Now
you're stuck here doing shitty podcasts with me and Brian.
Like, no one's even noticed that I made a decision to not battle this year.
I want to give everyone a chance to chime in. Excess, do you have any questions for him?
Not necessarily a question, but it's just, I just want to say, like, hearing you say, like, just hearing you talk the way that you're speaking about your past and everything, like, it's really clear that you have like a genuine, deep passion for music and for rapping, and it's really inspiring and really cool to hear and see so far.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I can't imagine not doing music. You know, the people do the would you rathers, and it's like, would you rather be deaf or blind? I'm like,
oh boy,
I'll take blind every day. Well, I'm like, I've been half blind almost my entire life. So I'm not missing much, but music, I couldn't do without that, you know.
Not to jump ahead, but we do that at the end of these shows, and we do keep a score, and you'll have to pick the winner, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
But it's not like your boring run-of-the-mill would you rather shit. There's wordplay. It's clever.
Yeah, we like to think it is. Yeah, so we'll skip ahead a bit. Yeah, go on, Brian. Yeah.
One of the I remember one of the best songs that I also heard you on. It was just a feature, the one you did with Big K. Know My Name. Oh, oh my God, bro. That was on my gym playlist for like fucking like forever. It shit.
Yeah.
That's such a, that beat, like all we had to do was not mess it up, you know, and K is a beast too. He's another one who can really,
amazing.
Really rap, you know, and he killed it. What's funny is we made that actually when I brought him out to Portland to battle 9DM for like Grind Time Northwest, and that night or the next night I forget, but we just hit the studio, the only studio, and recorded that song. I actually had a different verse on that song, and I was like, yo, I think K kind of shit on me. Let me rewrite a verse. And he might have still got me even after the rewrite. But
no, yours was they actually were. It wasn't like a fucking M and Jay-Z thing. It was actually pretty even. I thought you guys both held your own. And the bar where you said like turn your spear into splinter, spit like I'm the only thing in the hemisphere to consider. How did you get into the multis that good? Like, cause I love multis. That's kind of, I know people get on me for this. I base artists on how good they are at rhyming multis. I know it's like stupid, but like if I find it way more interesting. Like I just love the multi-syllable stuff. That's why I kind of veered towards like Thesaurus and you and the WRC. So like, how did you start writing that? Did you hear somebody, you were like, oh, he's rhyming 2 words, 3 words, and kind of mimic what they were doing?
Honestly, like I wasn't aware of doing it like early on. It was just hearing like my favorite rap, like, you know, even like at the, you know, but like Method Man, even DMX, like there is like 2 syllables in these things, and like it was just pleasing to my ear to rhyme more. And then you know, when I started getting into like battle rap and doing the science as a scientist a little bit more, I started to become aware of like these terms. Like I remember getting on, I had like web TV back in the day, like my mom had it, and I would go to like rap chat rooms and I would battle people via audio in chat rooms, and that was like the first time I started hearing people be like, yeah, multi-syllable rhymes. I'm like, what? Like, what is that? And like people broke it down. I'm like, oh yeah, like for sure. Okay, cool. And you know, I think there's a, personally, like I think I'd rather listen to somebody who has feeling and rhyming a single syllable than a bunch of pointless multi.
Forced,
You know, there's a lot of stuff where it's just like you're just rhyming, but you ain't saying nothing.
Right.
Like, and so I told that line, like now at this point, it's so ingrained in me. Like I don't think like this isn't technically right. Like I just think in terms of like these rhyme schemes, and even with that one specifically, the way you mentioned, like it wasn't about syllables to me. It was just about the flow. Like, and there was a long period of time where I was doing the Jay-Z thing of like not writing in my head, and my flow, I think, really gained. I was able to like better my flow by doing that because I wasn't married to these syllables and looking at shit on a page when I was just writing in my head. And that cadence, I just wanted to be like, and I was like, okay, I hear the mumbling first, and I just filled in the lines, and that's just like now writing like that is just sort of.
Well, and you said it was good. You mentioned something amazing because I'm sure Brian and Excess have the same thing. You said it just was music to your ears. It sounded better. When I try to explain to people the multi thing, like a lot of people don't get it. Like when you try, what's he rhyming here? And they're like, well, black and cat. And I'm like, no, he's rhyming the words before. And you really have to break it down. It's like you can't really explain it to some people. And I don't think that you like say, you said that you don't try to do it anymore, but I think it just probably just subconsciously comes to you at this point. You know what I mean? Like if you write like raising the bar, you're really looking to rhyme raising the bar. And it's just going to come to you. Not that like a bar would be different if you didn't, but you'll go at like play in the car, raising the bar or something instead of like, oh, I'll go to the car. Cause it's just doesn't sound right.
It doesn't roll the same. And it's fun. Like, it's like, you know, when I think about it, like take time to really think about it, like it's fun. Like that's part of the game, you know. It's like, it makes it more of a, like, if I'm just sitting down and, you know, instantly think of, you know, like raising the bar, and then, okay, you know, car, tar, far, but all those come, but then it's like, okay, but adding this extra layer of syllables become, and then in turn, not only focusing on the rhyming, but putting it in context, actually saying something, making it clever, and still doing that, it makes it more almost like of a challenge and competitive, and it is fun, you know. And when you hear, when I do hear shit that's like, damn, he rhymed that and that, like, that's perfect. Like, there's still, I still have that element in me where it's like, damn, this fool, you know, I can't think of an example immediately off top, but I'm like, wow, this fool really rhymed, you know, 100,000 in public housing. Like, that's so perfect. Like, they're so relevant to each other, and also have that role of a complex rhyme. Like, I wish I would have thought of that. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say one of the best ones you ever did was, and it always sticks out, '07 versus Dumbfounded, when you said, watch this gay guy get torn on any stage I perform. You can't rap, but you can make chicken taste like an orange. So, like, that, those shit, to rhyme and keep that relevant with all three bars is ridiculous. Like, so that's one of the things I was like, all right, this motherfucker can't be like, that's amazing. So yeah,
I might not have aged well, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, especially now, like, yeah. we went through that too with the Thesaurus. Do you find yourself not saying certain words you might have 7 years ago just because of how the world is now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the freestyle era, and even when I very first started the acapella, like, you know, I was definitely dropping like F-bombs and shit like that. And, you know, but one thing, and that, you know, this is young, and that was just like a funny thing. Like, oh, like, I'll just throw that in. I wasn't even rhyming it 99.9% of the time. It was literally like after the rhyme, just like saying it as an
extra jab.
Probably picked that up from someone like, I like that awkward, like, yells at his opponent even after the bar, you know. But it's like throwing up and everything. It's like that. It cheapens the material, and even kind of after my first couple battles, you know, you can even see, even in those ones, aside from like F-bombs, like, I always prided myself on not taking the easy way out and going the stereotype route. You know, obviously in the dub RC era, in the freestyle era, like, you don't know anything about your opponent, right? So everything that you do is first impression, what you see, what they're wearing, and then being able to pull from, you know, tropes and stereotypes and make them rhyme on the spot. Like, that's what the freestyle era was. But then when you get to sit down and write and think and then memorize and have the ability to approach from new angles and find ways to say shit that people have never said before against this person, that's what I get off on. And that's what I love about the evolution of battle rap, is being able to take it a step further. And it's something I've, you know, try to pride myself on, is not taking the easy way out and going with stereotypes and having a deeper layer to my shit. Even as recently as A-Ward, you know, I didn't want to attack Christianity and attack his religion. Instead, I'd rather use that to attack him personally, and not just say God isn't real or Christians this and that. Like, if you just skim the battle and don't really listen, like, you can say, oh, he's just taking a religious angle because I reference the religion, but I'm not attacking the religion. I'm just using it to attack him, how he's not aligned with it, or whatever the case is.
Right.
That was the whole comma Christian scheme you went with, the comma Christian, Christian. Yeah. No, really, yeah. Now, were you at A-Ward? Was there any real beef there, or, like, because it seemed like there was some animosity?
It was like,
it was just
no
playful.
Real beef. It was just like, and it wasn't playful either. It was a step past playful. I was just like, but I think we both just had the taste in our mouth, like, I don't really like this guy. He's corny. You know what I mean? And so, and there's been a few battles where that's kind of been the underlying thing. And there was never no beef. And I don't have beef with A-Ward or nothing like that. You know, it's just certain people rub you the wrong way or whatever on a competitive level.
Right.
You know, I don't know anything about this man, you know, about Aaron, or, you know, who he is as a person. I never really kicked it with him like that. So I don't have any judgments. But as far as like ILLMAC and A-Ward. You know what I mean? Not Greg and Kimsey. On a competitive level, I'm like, yeah, you know, whatever. He's corny. But then I know that was sort of a mutual feeling, and it makes for good battles, as was the outcome, you know?
Yeah. Right, do you have anything? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to fast forward to before I fast forward to the album, really quick, who was harder to prepare for, Manas or Carter Deems?
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Carter Deems,
really?
Carter Deems 100%. I mean, first and foremost, I got the call to, like, because he was supposed to battle somebody, I think, and they dropped out. And our battle wasn't even locked in till 5 or 6 days prior. Like, we had less than a week to write and memorize the 3 rounds. You know, and if you look at it, the rounds ended up being, I don't know, like 3, 5, 6 minutes. But aside from the time constraints, you know, this sounds contradictory because I immediately wrote all 3 rounds damn near in one sitting. So it's like, it was easy to write technically, but it was not easy it was harder than Manas because I wasn't, he's even being able to write all these cat angles and everything, like there's no penetrating his armor, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I definitely didn't have enough time, I don't think, to figure out the plan, as you can tell by me getting 30 by the first round. But he was just harder because I'm like, there's no winning this battle. So a lot of the battle is me complimenting him in a lot of ways. Because I'm just, I can't beat him, join him, you know? And Manas, I wrote that pretty last minute while I was in Australia. I battled him, Defron, and Cursor in one trip out there. Yeah. And I wrote that last minute, but I knew pretty much when we locked it in what I wanted to do. Again, I didn't want to make blind jokes and clown him. I wanted to use it in a different way. So I was like, you know, I want to come from this whole angle of like, I want to do, which it kicks in my second round. I was like, in my second, I want to do like a blind swordsman angle where I say I want to even the playing field, and I'm going to blindfold myself for the rest of the battle. And then in the third round, I want to, you know, talk about the stuff in the world and ultimately say, like, we're all blind, like what makes you special. So I kind of like knew what I was going to do pretty early on with that. So it's pretty easy to just sort of go in and write it.
The underrated, your Cursor battle, that third round, the one bar you had is one of the more underrated bars where you have the whole, Cursor brought his click just to open for an icon. That shit was amazing, by the way. Very underrated. The Carter Deems battle, did you at all know the Gnome 5 thing was coming, or you fell right into that trap? Like, you literally fell right into it.
I mean, I figured something was coming, but it was like, in those moments, what you don't understand is it's a trap either way. Yeah. If I don't high five him, he's just gonna be like, "Oh, I always wanted like damn, like I always wanted to give a Gnome 5," right. And that would have blown up. I think it added a little bit more of an exclamation point, just having that sort of like, even just the audible sound is like a cue, like the pause. Always wanted, it adds a little bit of an exclamation, but even if I don't, that is used against me. Like, it's then his sentiment is just like, damn, I've always wanted to give a Gnome 5, and people are, it's shaking the room regardless, you know?
Yeah. So let's get into the album that Brian has just flaunted over the past fucking 40 minutes. So yeah, how'd you get into writing this? Why'd you leave the eye out? Just get into it, man. What was the thought process about everything?
So like I mentioned before, I hadn't released a solo project in like 3-4 years, and since Still Standing was the last one I dropped in 2016. But I was making music constantly, and I put out like an album with the homie Gold that was a collab album, and me and Only put out Only in Ill 2 and 667 and Raising the Bar. So I think was out there for my fans, putting content out and sort of feeding you know, that demand, but I hadn't put out an actual body of solo work. And I had tons of songs, and it got super frustrating when I look at all these songs I have, like 50, 60 songs that I'm attached to, aside from all the half done shit and all these things. But, you know, in these last few years, like even just making music with new people, like, you know, Baby Franco, formerly known as Bobby Butcher, and moving to LA and living next door to Chase and being in the studio every day and experimenting with my musicality and wanting to be a little more melodic in pockets and just experimenting so much. I made so many different sounds in my music that I couldn't sit down and figure out how to make a cohesive project. It was bothering me for like a year plus. I'd be like, well, what if I do the 808 and heartbreaks emotional shit, because I have a million songs about love and heartbreak and cutting people off because of things I went through before moving to LA. But then I was like, no, like, how about I take, you know, the 808 stuff that I have and fuse that and do this. And every time I would just sit down and put songs together, it just sounded like different worlds colliding, and it wasn't cohesive enough, even though it's produced by Chase. I was like, it's just not sitting right with me. So I was trying to think of a way to be able to sort of give a theme to different sounds that I've learned in my evolution of making music. And so I sat down and I finally thought, well, like, well, what about, you know, colors? What if I do something that's revolved around colors? And because when I hear beats and do these things, like I kind of feel a vibe and I see colors. And I'm like, I seen that had been done. And I know that people have done season related things, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to do seasons because a lot of the songs that I have, like, have this sort of like spring vibe. A lot of, you know, I have a lot of the emotional, darker stuff that sounds like winter. I got a lot of like stuff, you know, even with LSC or my solo shit where it's more on like G-funk, like West Coast, like quick, tight beats and these, like, that sounds like summer. And so then that's where the idea came from, to then be like, okay, now I have this format that I think I could filter a lot of this music through. And so then when I sat down, winter, I was going to drop winter first. I just sort of missed the boat. I didn't complete it in time. I'm like, all right, let me redirect. Let me focus on spring. And I made a lot of those songs. Like Locksaw, I made, like, the album was mixed. You know, we were sending it to master the next morning. Chase made that beat. And I'm like, yo, I got to do a song to this. We did it. And I was like, I'm actually going to, the album was going to end with Gardettos and Velour Sweats. I made Locksaw and I was like, yo, it's actually, I ended the album Clay Pigeons with Sovereign Airspace, where I just rapped forever. Let me put the exclamation mark on spring with this song Locksaw. And so I added to it, which, side note, I also think is one of the most me in songs, like as far as my personality is in Locksaw. But spring, I finished it in the end and really brought it all together. If you listen, there's a couple 2-part songs because I didn't want to have 14, 15 songs and some of them weren't done. So I was like, let's sort of take pieces. And to me, the sound I was going for, what spring felt like to me, was like soul sample, bright, like flowers. Yeah. And even in moments of like what could be construed as self-reflection, like on Be Better or even Falling Out, the tone of the beats and the music and everything still has this certain optimism and brightness about it. And that to me is spring, because after winter and all the darkness, it's like a rebirth. And that's what the project felt like to me after 4 years of not dropping music. So that it was only appropriate to come back with spring, winter being the 4 years of hibernation, and now dropping a project, you know?
Like, that's so in depth to release an album. I would have just released it and threw my name on it. Like,
you know what?
yeah.
To hear that much of an explanation for it, like the amount of work that and thought that goes into something like that, like really constructing, like it's not just, like what you said, Scott, like, okay, well, I'm just going to make some songs. They're going to sound hot. I'll put good beats and I'll just slap my name on it and put it out there. And hopefully people like it. Like there's this whole thought process behind it. It's like kind of like putting together a painting, you know, like you find your easel, you find the mantle you want to paint on, and then you find the colors and the brushes you want. And it's this whole project. And it's such a shame. Like I get really upset about this because guys like you that I can sit there and I'll play the whole thing through. Like I'm not skipping a song. I'll listen to the whole shit. And like, I'll really step back and I'm like, wow, you know, I really appreciate what he did. This is like, it's really deep a lot. There's so many deep meanings on this album. But then a Cardi B song gets a Grammy. It's like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, listen, I'm not hating on her. I'm not hating on her. She does her thing. But the thing is, like an award like that, we're supposed to be awarding art and like something that's thought provoking and something that makes you reflect upon yourself. And like listening to your music, that's what it causes for me. So I look at other things and I'm like, yo, what the, like, there's such an imbalance in the world with shit like that. And it's unfair to guys like you who like, you made this album and it's fucking phenomenal. You know,
I definitely appreciate that, you know, and the sentiment. I do think that there's room for everything and Cardi, like I love Cardi personally, like personality, everything, like
yeah.
But aside from that, like, you know, to me, and this isn't like any political thing, but like I think what, you know, when I say things like evolution in music, I think it's not only about, you know, the new tools that I learned about how to use my voice or make songs. Like one of the big things that I think kind of brought me out of my shell is for a long time, a lot of my old projects don't sit well with me for like a reason I never understood before. And now I think moments of clarity hit me where I was very like looking at what do battle rap fans who I'm touching, like, what do they want to hear? I should do more punchlines. Like, damn, well, now I should do a girl song. Now I should do this. And everything had to have its place, and it lost the soul of it. And what I realized is, like, I don't want to be to have a message. I want to be the message. And by just being comfortable in my skin and being who I am and then creating, there's always going to be a message, right? And if you make art with expectations or with even considering the reception of that art, it sort of becomes detached. It becomes tainted. You've defeated the purpose of it. And so I think kind of looking at, you know what, I don't care anymore. I don't care if a million, I want more people to hear it, you know, it means something to me, but ultimately, like, the people finding it, and this is like a cliche of like someone who, you know, is not a big name or sort of just giving up. I'm not giving up on it. Like, the fulfillment comes in making the music and then sharing it. And anything beyond that point is bonus, because as an artist, I'm not entitled to praise. I'm not entitled to any award, regardless of how amazing the music is. All I'm entitled to is the work. So having that mentality, and aside from a thought, but really feeling it, I think freed me in this subconscious way to really actually make this album and make something that felt so personal, because I am not attached to ever having a Grammy or anything. And it's not from this like underground inferiority complex. It's more of just like, this means something to me and I truly believe in it now. Whereas even before, I think I didn't fully believe in my music. You know, there was just something missing or something, but now it's like, I really do have a different connection. And I don't honestly, all those things would be great, but I don't like have a vibe or a negative thought about, you know, what this person gets and then how come I don't, you know what I mean?
Oh, so you look at your old stuff you were making for people, and now you just woke up one day and just said, like, fuck it, I'll make it for me. And if they like it, they like it. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
More or less. There's definitely music that means something to me that I've made before.
Yeah.
but the underlying thing through a lot of the material that even if in dope shit, there's just something on a subconscious level that hits me of like, this isn't all the way there, you know?
I'm with Brian though. Like you're the type of artist who, if I'm with my wife driving and I'm playing your shit, she needs to be quiet because I have to hear it. You know what I mean? Like it's infuriating because it's like, did you hear what he said? And it's like, what? It's like, well, okay, listen. Like in the one song where you talk about a celebrity's dying, and then the second time around, you don't care anymore because you're desensitized to it, right? Is that what you were going for? I think
the first one's like, it had a sobering effect on me, and then the next one is like, watch the celebs overdose. I'm like, damn. And
like that's an amazing thought, like that, but that's amazing to like, because that's how everyone is. You get desensitized. Like that's how we all are, whether it's fucking death or whatever. I mean, shit. I played GTA the other day and just stabbed someone on a fucking bench chair for no reason. Like, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" They didn't do anything to you. I was like, "Well, he looked at me wrong." So, but it's true. So. For you to like make a 6-minute song and then the second minute say that and then the fourth minute come back to it, a lot of people wouldn't pick up on that. So like, I mean, it really is thought-provoking and it is annoying. I mean, you as an artist probably don't find it as annoying as the fans. I'm sure you've come across that. Like fans fight for the artist more than the artist fights for himself, I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially you look at fan bases like the Barbs, like you don't want no beef with them. No. Like you don't want beef with Nicki Minaj's fan base. I love Nicki, for the record. You know,
I'm sure she will not see this. Don't worry about it.
them already. They might not even have made it to this point.
Yeah.
No, for sure. It's something. Even in the comments on stuff, like I'll see comments like on my music or stuff I put out that's like, "Yo, like." This is amazing, like way better than mumble rap, or like, how come these artists don't have that? And like, I'll respond and just be like, man, like I love that artist. It's not mutually exclusive. I think there's a place for everything. And this person's success doesn't detract from my success. You know what I mean? Ultimately. And I listen to a lot of mainstream and a lot of music that I think my fans might not listen to, you know? And also I don't think they might, not a fan that's in that vein might not realize that a lot of my music takes certain things from these artists that they're called mumble rappers or whatever. Like, yo, there's a lot of more melodic things on here. I'm hearing, you know, artists like Lil Wayne or TJ or Ace Boogie with a hood. Like I'm listening to these artists and I'm inspired by these different things and take little things and not to steal or bite, but to learn like, oh, I could do that, but filter it through who I am and make something completely new, you know?
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Like everything does have its place. I'm just bitter when it comes to what our culture glorifies. Like what we put at the top as the most important things, and like self-reflection is something that I feel a lot of people lack, and it leads to a lot of problems. It leads to not understanding each other because you don't understand yourself. You know, you're not gonna, you can't put yourself in someone else's shoes if you don't fully know yourself, you know? So that's why I get upset at things like that, because when, you know, someone like you makes music and it's meaningful and it has this thought-provoking quality to it, I'm like, you know, there's so many people that need to fucking hear this, and like, we're not going to boost it up there. We're just going to be like, oh yeah, well, you could listen to this, but how about this over here? And it's just nothing. It's just like, it's like eating vitamins and minerals or eating a piece of cardboard, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian with his muscles over there talking about fitness. No, but the freaking the same song though, where you mentioned the outfit out of date, but so I'm like in the future. I'm sorry, I'm kind of paraphrasing. Yeah, like I texted Brian that line, and I was just like, I can't write that. Like that's amazing. Like I couldn't even think of that. I mean, most people say my outfits are out of date. I've literally trying to been pushed pushing jean shorts back into style the past 8 years, and they're not working.
That's a losing battle, my friend.
I don't care. It will happen. Yeah, it's gonna happen, man.
Yeah, what is that? It's like
Fashion comes back around, so you could say I'm living ahead of my time, something like that. I forget the exact words.
So what I say is Planet of the Apes, throwing monkey wrenches, blowing like candles in the wind, can't hold a candle to the grave, in a rubber bank. Oh, so then I'm like, because it ties into the line before the I made dress fresh to death. Dress fresh to death, made funeral plans. I'm fashionably late. Like even that,
Yeah.
I'm like fresh to death. And then you know the trope of the phrase like you'd be late to your own funeral, and I'm relating it to being fresh to death. Made funeral plans. I'm fashionably late. Every 20 years, fashion comes back around. So assume living in. And that's just a way of saying, like, yeah, I was like, I think writing and wearing like overly baggy hoop shorts, and I look down like, yo, am I dressed fresh to death? Or I'm like, well, in 20 years, like this will be cool again. So
it will be, and I'm gonna every time I wear jean shorts now, I'm gonna say, you wait till 2040 because this shit's coming back.
I don't even think that's long enough.
No, man, that's really, really cool, man. But all right, what else you got coming out now? What can we look forward to? Give us some preview.
Yeah. So you know, spring. I'm gonna drop more visuals for spring. You know, with everything, you know, in the world with the virus and all the you know, mayhem in the streets and the brutality going on and you know, I planned on promoting spring a little differently, but I didn't want to at the time. But then I was considering pushing it back, but obviously it's time sensitive with it being called spring, and it's releasing in June. Technically, spring came out in spring. For the record, I think 3 days before it ended. But you know, I think it was also needed because of the vibe of it being sort of like after winter comes spring. You know, even in the harshness of winter, the seeds are below the surface and flowers will bloom. And you know, the world could feel like winter right now. So I wanted to release spring, and I'm not sitting here like, yo, I need to do this big thing. Like spring to me just needed to come out to set a foundation for where my music is going, and I think sort of reset the clock and reset the stage for who I am as an artist. So I'm still going to do visuals for that, but I'm completing summer and I'm putting that out. I'm putting these projects out in their respective seasons this year. So I'm going to drop 4 projects. Summer will be probably end of August. I might keep the theme of doing them at the end of the seasons. Right. 1, because of the timeline I'm on now. But 2, I think it's kind of a dope thing to sort of be in reflection of the season.
Right.
You know, and then fall and winter, and it's all coming out. I mean, winter might be something like January, but I got these 4 projects and I got songs for every one of them at this point. But that's the next one I'm putting out. I got more visuals dropping for spring. Fire in the Booth just dropped. Ghost is out. I'm gonna drop a new studio freestyle next week. Nice. I just want to stay busy, man. I'm definitely
that's great.
Inspired.
I want to get to our gun to our head segment. And if you're ready for it, XS Brian, do you have any questions?
Well, it's really cool. Like you really are like a fucking like rap scientist. It's been really cool. Like hearing you like break all this shit down. It's really cool. You kind of already touched upon it a little bit. The only question I really have is, I mean, it seems like you have like a very deep burning fire in your belly for music. Do you need to find a way to like keep yourself inspired, especially through this pandemic, or?
You know, there's times where I just don't feel that creative, and sometimes I make songs, and sometimes I'm like, nah. It's the same thing. You know, one similarity between music and battle rap is that while there's an ebb and flow with inspiration, you can always work through that. You know, you can still say, I'm gonna sit here and put in the work. So for example, to put it in battle rap terms, if I can't, because the reason I'm using this analogy is because battle rap's on the timeline. You know, music, I can sort of choose when to drop things. Battle rap, whether you're inspired or not, you're booked for this battle in 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
You got a job to do.
Yeah, so when I'm not inspired, you know, to write, sometimes I'll still go in and say, no, I'm going to listen to beats and something might catch me, and I might catch that. If I'm not doing that, let me watch music documentaries that inspire me and see these other artists' journey. Let me read, even if it's not about music, if it's, you know, whether it's Book of Five Rings or God is Red or you know, anything, even the you know, Laws of Mastery, whatever. It's just feeding the machine to be able to talk about more things. You know, you want to change your art, change your life, right? That's a phrase for a reason. So if I'm not just wanting to make music or be inspired, or if I'm not inspired right now, let me give myself the tools for when I am inspired to make something new, to not sort of be recycling the same songs, the same lines, and doing the same things, you know? So when I'm not directly inspired, I just try to feed my soul in different ways, you know, to feed the words that'll inspire me later.
Yeah, that's such a great way to look at it. That's awesome. Thank you for that answer. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, ILLMAC, this is a lot of pressure on you here for our guest. Now, as people who follow this show, the 45 to 70 people who watch, we have this gun to your head segment, and I am in the lead here. Brian's very bitter, but we need you to pick the winner after this. So since I won the last time and I'm currently in the lead, don't feel any pressure, by the way, to pick me as the winner. Brian, you're going to go first. These are 5 questions, a little word play here we like to do, and just answer them truthfully. All right, Brian, you're up.
Okay. Let me see.
Wait. Well, real quick.
Go on.
So you're asking, break this down real quick for me. So you're asking me questions, and then I'm choosing, how is this working?
Oh,
So
what
you
it
choose
is,
the winner.
No. So what we do is we ask, it's kind of a would you rather or a this or that. So it's just, we call it gun to your head. So you just pick one of the answers. Don't think about it. Just whatever comes first. And then whoever has, so I'm going to,
guys' answer.
Yeah, so I'm going to do 5 like this or that questions, and then Scott's going to do 5. And then out of the both, after you hear them and you pick your answers, then you say who had the best questions.
Okay, I got you.
By the way, Chase Moore picked Brian for a winner, but we don't talk about that.
I had good ones.
Go on, Brian. A lot of pressure. You can't fall behind here.
I'm good. All right, so what's the first one I want here? All right, would you rather own a Motel 6 or Section 8 housing?
Oh, man. Section 8 housing. Rent's free.
What's the next one?
Community project and giving back.
What's better, a free iPhone or a free YouPorn membership?
I'm going to go with iPhone because porn is free, period, across different websites.
I don't know. Some people would argue have a membership is pretty good.
Don't try to taint him, Brian. He didn't like your question. Go on.
All right. This is a good one. Would you rather get caught watching midget porn or shoot a porn with a midget?
I feel like this is a loaded question. I feel like I feel attacked right now.
Yeah, haven't you seen the attacks on it?
Take that question, did you?
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't purposely done. I thought of these like literally.
I'm gonna go. What was the second option? Is getting caught watching or
get caught watching midget porn or shoot a porn with a midget?
Okay, first of all, I think midget isn't the term to use. I think that's the term. So let's just get that straight. Aside from that, I would go the second option, getting caught having sex, because I have a flawless streak of not being caught. jerking off, and I would.
Oh, not me, man. You can go through my fucking bloodline. They've all seen me.
Never. I got a flawless record. Don't want to change it.
All right, next one. Is it better to drive on a highway or a low road?
Ooh. I mean, you know, the wordplay in me, I got to go with highway. You know, you got to take the high road, not the low road. So that.
And last one. Would you rather fight Batman and Robin or get caught robbing a man with a bat?
Saved by that one, Brian.
I'm definitely going with get caught robbing a man and with the bat. Like that would just, I think I would get on the shade room or something with that. That would help the career.
I can say after hearing Brian's 5, I'm very comfortable. I'm getting a 3-peat here.
That's a bullshit 3-peat.
Yeah. All right. Would you rather listen to MC Hammer or have an MC hit you with a hammer?
Boo.
I gotta go with MC Hammer. I had an MC Hammer notebook, like where he was on the cover, like kindergarten or first grade or something. So
your shit was way cooler than mine. Your first CD was that. Mine was Mariah Carey. You had an MCV like notebook. I had an MC Hammer doll. I don't know why. Like,
They made an MC Hammer doll?
yeah. All right. Would you rather have Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal as your ice cream man or lose your sweet tooth forever?
That's a tough one. I'll take Sweet Tooth as my ice cream man. I think that would be very nostalgic.
Hell yeah.
You'd probably be dead, but all right.
Right.
All right. Would you rather eat at Waffle House for a year or live in a house made of waffles for a year?
Eat at Waffle House for a year, because if I have a house made out of waffles, I'm homeless by the end of the week.
All right. Before every one of your battle rounds, you have to say, Christ on a cracker or shiver me timbers.
Yo.
I'm definitely going on the cracker, just to subliminal at the horseman. You know?
All right. Last one. Would you rather go to clown college or make a collage of clowns?
I mean, I'm down for clown college for sure. Have you seen Baskets?
Yeah, it's true. And Homer Simpson went to clown college. He ended up being crusty.
Oh,
God damn it. All right. All right, ILLMAC, you got to pick a winner between me and Brian here.
Just give it to him.
Yeah, I gotta go with you for 2 reasons. One, MC, you know, really solidified it, but brought, like, you lost points with drop slur, the M word. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know,
you lost me.
you know, ILLMAC's making money now because he's covering his ass with all the slurs and stuff. He's like, hey, guys, this isn't me, all right? And I love Cardi B and I love Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, don't come for me.
Hey, man, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it, bro. Catch the Spring album and all that stuff. Go buy it if you haven't. It's a great album, man. For real. Hey, ILLMAC.
Thank you for having me. You know what I mean? I tend to get on rants because I just put so much thought into things. And
great,
so
though, yeah.
It all kind of comes out. But, like, I appreciate you letting me talk about myself for this long.
It was great. This was a great
Awesome, bro.